Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Joanna Butler, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Tamazin Croker. 2026 marks 125 years of dedicated service by the Australian Army and its predecessors. Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Colin Edward Hunt. We are honoured to acknowledge Dr. Karen Bird and Wing Commander Sharon Bown, members of the Council of the Australian War Memorial. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Those who are able to do so, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Colin Edward Hunt. Colin Hunt was born in Seymour, Victoria on the 20th of June, 1896, to James Dupe Hunt and Martha Jameson near Carmichael. He grew up in the Melbourne suburb of Surrey Hills and was educated at the local state school. By the time the First World War began, he had moved to Footscray, where he worked as a clerk in the post office. Outside of his job, he was a parishioner at his local Presbyterian church and was a keen member of the church's young men's class. Hunt was also active in his local militia unit, and with the outbreak of the war, he joined the instructional staff training AIF recruits at Royal Park. He enlisted for service in the AIF on the 22nd of August, 1917, retaining his rank of sergeant, which had been made permanent earlier in the year. Hunt was allotted to the 20th Reinforcements, to the 21st Australian Infantry Battalion, known as the 3rd Sportsman Unit, and on the 21st of November, he embarked from Port Melbourne aboard the transport ship Nestor, bound for Egypt. After a brief stop, he sailed for England, disembarking in early January 1918. Hunt was sent to the 6th Training Battalion at Favant, where he spent several months training for the war in France. After arriving in France in mid-April 1918, he spent nearly a fortnight at Etaples before joining the 21st Battalion at Warloy on the 2nd of May. He was allotted to No. 7 Platoon B Company. Hunt took part in his first battle on the 4th of July when Australian and American troops captured the village of Hamel. The 21st Battalion remained in the Villers-Bretonneux area for the following month before the Allies launched their great offensive on the 8th of August. The battalion took part in the initial advance before moving into reserve positions behind the main advance. At the end of the month, the battalion was back in the front line, ready for the assault on Mont Saint-Quentin. The 21st was initially held in reserve, but when the leading battalions and 6th Brigade were held up by German machine gun and artillery fire at around 8:30 a.m., the battalion was called into action. Hunt was acting platoon commander of 7 Platoon during the attack, and according to one of his men, had performed his duties well. Private William Goddard was with him that afternoon, later recalled, "We had just reached our objective and were going up a communication trench when a high explosive shell landed in the trench, killing Hunt instantly. I was alongside him at the time and saw him killed." Several other men were also killed in the blast, and they were initially laid to rest in a small quarry near Mont Saint-Quentin. After the war, their remains were reinterred in Peron Communal Cemetery Extension. The epitaph on his grave reads, "His life was a ready gift for his country's cause." He was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Colin Edward Hunt, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff, and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.